Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Carol Bauer on the line, and she is Executive Director over at GALS Denver, which is Girls Athletic Leadership Schools of Denver. Carol, welcome back to the show.
Thanks so much, Adam. Great to be here.
All right, Carol. So I'm excited to have you back on. I've been waiting. You and I, we've been working on getting this book out, put it together. Finally, the book is published and out, Mission Matters Business Leaders Series. And we're going to get into your writing today. We'll get also into, for so many of the guests that maybe they're the newer listeners that didn't catch our first episode we did together. Maybe they didn't catch everything about GALS Denver. So we'll also talk about the background of GALS Denver and what you're doing there. But first off, I just have to say congrats on also adding author at Mission Matters to your title. So congratulations.
All right. Thank you. It's exciting.
All right. So we're going to get this episode started the way that we start them all with our Mission Matters Minute. So Carol, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Carol, what mission matters to you?
I love that question. I think there are so many valuable missions that are out there, but of course, I am connected to the mission of GALS Denver, which is to empower all students to succeed academically, lead confidently, live boldly, and thrive physically. And we are a school that's based on a platform of gender equity and what we call feminist justice and building amazing leaders for the now and the future.
Yeah. It's great. And you're a wonderful addition to the book, especially with the title, Oh, the Humanity, Business and Life Lessons from Middle School. So we're going to hold off of the book for a moment or two longer because I do want to go back a little bit more into your background and really just how you got started in education. Like, where did all this start for you?
Yeah. I mean, I've always been like a lifelong learner, like curious, very curious and wanting to learn. But I knew that I didn't really want to do a traditional public school or a traditional teacher role. So I actually went into nonprofits, worked in the community, did a lot of experiential education, did a lot of adult education, leadership education, and then moved back towards adolescence and particularly working with adolescent girls or girl identifying kiddos. So started there, ended up being a college professor for a while, didn't really want to do that. So ended up back in a 612 public school here in Denver, working directly with adolescents and realizing the magic that they bring to the world and to their own learning.
So I'm a big fan of your background because there's, you've done a lot, meaning from adolescence all the way up to college, as you mentioned. So you've seen kind of like the breadth in between and everything from public schools and otherwise. So I think it's really interesting. I guess sticking with the adolescent side of things a bit longer, because I know it'd be too broad of a question to ask otherwise. Like, what attracts you to working with this group of kiddos?
I mean, I think that adolescence is it has such a horrible reputation, right? That when people think about their own middle school experiences, they're like,
awkward.
Yes, you included, right? Or you think about like success being just to like make it through without harm or whatever, when really I think and I'm at school, so there's a bell, but
we expect at least one bell. Come on. It's proven to do what you do.
That's right. But I think adolescence is such a time where students are really raw. They're really raw, discovering who they are, what they believe in, what matters to them, how they can impact their communities. And they're so open to sort of the curiosities of like what the world is all about and willing to sort of try on different versions of who they can be in the world. And so I think that they are joyful and confusing and full of life and emotion and not driven by logic, but driven by, their different parts of their brain. And so it's just a really beautiful time to be able to connect with young people. And I mean, if you think about like who is important to you when you were in middle school and high school, like you have those humans in your life, right? So I feel like really blessed to be a part of students' lives. Like you're only in middle school once, you're only in high school once. And I may or may not be one of those adults that like helped move them in a direction or a path that was really impactful to them. So that's why I think it's just really a gift.
Oh, absolutely. And as I was kind of preparing for this, it did take me back to middle school and immediately, and I was kind of shocked because I haven't really thought about it in a while, but immediately I had, multiple individuals like Jesse Kilgore and just a couple other individuals that were in my life at that time period that really made a difference. And that I can actually, if I really trace things back, I'm like, wow, they were some of the inspirations for what I do today. So when you
Yeah.
talk about how some of your ideas or things or beliefs can be formed at such a young age, and you're still moldable. Like, I feel it, and I feel like many of the viewers will as well, which is why I'm really excited to have you contribute to our business leaders book, because I was like, man, we don't always get that angle, we don't always get that voice represented in some of the content we put out. So it was just a pleasure to publish you. So without further ado, let me tee up the book and the topic, and let's do some digging there, because I was pleasantly pleased with what we published, and also to be able to get your message out there. So first off, the title again. So, Oh, the Humanity: Business and Life Lessons from Middle School. Like, what was the inspiration for this? Oh, the Humanity.
Oh, the humanity. I think that, schools are really special places and they're full of like dynamic living individuals, right? I mean,
Mhm.
companies can be too, but that is our business, is these young people, right? And so I think it stems from like the best laid plans are can be out there in any type of a school or organization, and really what drives it is the human beings within it. So on any given day, sorry, that's another bell. It's music. Students pick the music. So
It's
that's what
all
it is.
good. This is expected. What are you talking about? This is the
Yeah, that's
point of the
right.
live show, and this is why we know you're at school.
That's right. Oh, the humanity. Like your interview is getting interrupted
Speaking
by
of
bell
old
music.
humanity, right, Carol?
Right. No, so like I was saying, like we are constantly talking about the fact that like you can plan whatever you want in a school and how you think something's going to go, but really it's all about like the students, and they walk through the door with their full selves. Like their academic brains might be with them, their intellectual brains, but their social, emotional, their physical, their relationship brains are also like firing away like crazy, right? So you may want to do a creative writing lesson on whatever it is, and just it gets steered in the other direction. And so I joke with my leadership team, like every time we sit down to talk about something, we're like, how long do you think we have until something gets shifted or explodes in the building that one of us have to address or go and see. But yeah, I just think it's such a crazy thing to be in a building full of so much life all the time and really have that like life and that energy direct what happens during every single day. So I always say to the students, like, what you do today is important because you're exchanging a day of your life for it. So like choose wisely, and being here with them is what I choose to be. So
Man, dropping the knowledge, Kira. I would expect nothing else for the students and for the people that are watching this every day, right? It's spent wisely. We're trading our life for it. That's amazing.
yeah.
So I'll lay out a couple of the lessons just so that the listeners have a view of overall what the chapter and the content was about. But for everybody listening, we're only going to pick one or two of these out there. Why? Because well, number one, we still want you to go buy the book. So there'll be links in the show notes and whatnot, so that you can pick up a copy and check out all of Carol's writing as well as the other contributing authors in the book. But just to start this off, so lesson number one: everyone is valuable as they are. Lesson number two: connect learning to emotion and being. Lesson number three: embrace role models. And lesson number four: learning is not linear. So I want to start with really one of them that just kind of hit me right at home, and that was really embrace role models. Like, to me, when I think about my life and some of my role models, I mean, they came from many different places. Like one of them that I mentioned from middle school was Jesse Kilgore, and then numbers of others. Thomas Moody when I was in high school or going into college, I should say. And then just many different role models. My mother, I mean, and then I think about, like, I don't know if I can say fictional or how to say that, but all the role models I had in books. So I guess no, nonfiction, but let's say I didn't have access to them, right?
That counts.
They were
That
real
counts.
people.
Yeah.
So thinking about this idea of role models and the role it plays in our life, why did you feel it was important to kind of include this in your writing?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I think the way that you set it up, Adam, is right on track. Like when I think about role models, I don't always think about like the people who have won awards that are out
Yeah.
there in the world, although those are certainly some of mine,
Mhm.
absolutely. But I was really thinking about like who you see day to day and what you can pull from what they bring to this world, right? So like I think about folks that I work with that I witness their interactions with some of our students, and I'm just like, oh my God, like that is magical. Like these people have magic when they talk to students around helping them think through something that they're troubled with, helping them regulate to be able to access information, getting them excited about whatever it is that they're learning. And so, and then I also really consider some of these students role models for me. Like I see students walk through these doors, some of whom are overcoming huge barriers just to like get up and get here and be present. And it's so like beautiful to watch. And like you can't not be in it, and you can't not be present when you're working at a school. It's not like a desk job or desk jobs that I've had in the past where it's like, oh, I need a break, I'm just gonna sit back and get a cup of coffee. Like that doesn't happen in schools, right? So just like watching the beauty of how people hold and care for each other in an environment and in a community that's close knit like ours, that's really where I see role models every day. And I think it takes some intentionality to like pay attention to the goodness that you see in others, and then be able to like name what that is and maybe pull it into your own life and utilize it or recognize it in your present or in your future. So
Yeah.
and there's the bell again.
I'm in. How does it make you feel? Or I should say, like, what are your thoughts on the fact that like many of your students are going to, and I have no doubt based on our interactions, are going to look back at their time with you in Gals Denver, and you will be one of the role models that they name. Like, how does that make you feel?
That's a great question. I didn't put that in the chapter because of that. I wasn't thinking about me in those shoes. I was thinking about it the other way around.
That was just my curiosity, because some of the people that I've named like went on to be principals and other things like that. And I was thinking, I'm like, man, people are going to look back like these kids right now, they're kiddos now, but they won't be for long. And they'll be like in communication, and they're going to be doing an interview one day, and they're going to be saying, Carol Bauer was a, instrumental part of my life growing up, and for these various reasons. Like, how does that make you feel?
Well, there's no greater honor than that, right? Like being able to impact someone in a positive way. And I think so many of us do that. Sometimes we know that we do because we're in a position that's really public and people tell us or acknowledge us in those ways. And sometimes we just really have no idea, right? We're just doing something kind or thoughtful or concerning or important, or we're paying attention where we need to pay attention, or we're sharing love in a way that they needed to see it to be able to receive it, or we make a joke that they laugh at that they tell for years. I don't know, I absolutely I really elevate the teachers that work here in this building. I think they're really the real heroes. And people always ask me, like, what's the silver bullet of education? And it really is the front-facing humans that are serving kids on a day-to-day basis, and the just unconditional positive regard and unconditional love that they show to young people, whether the young people are nice to them or not. So I know my husband is a public school teacher. I know a lot of teachers here, they have files of like why I became a teacher file, or like why I work with adolescents file, and they put those little like thank you notes or memories or whatever in a in a place where they can capture and be like, oh yeah, and then they hear from students 4, 5, 10 years later where they're just like, oh, I just wanted to let you know that the thing you did or the thing you said or the way you were kind made a difference to me. And I think, yes, I might get a lot more exposure of that because I have hundreds of children with me every day, right, that interact with me. But I think we all do, it can be as simple as like being really generous to a bell ringer during holiday season, or generous to the person who's checking you out at the grocery store. But yeah, it's also, a little nerve wracking. I mean, you asked like, how does it feel? And I think we talk about that as adults in a school building, like we're being watched all the time. Like we can't yawn when we're not supposed to. We
a lot of eyeball,
slip a swear word in. We can't roll our eyes, like you're just being watched all the time. And so you constantly have to just think about like, how can I be the best I can be right now? And how can I continue to learn more so that I can do better in the future, and just try and emulate that for students.
It's awesome. All right, let's pull out another point here. So is not linear. So I won't ask the question like you proposed it, like what's the silver bullet? No, not asking that one, but the idea of learning, and obviously there's a lot of different methodologies and things like that. And it's never to, and I know you would never do this, but it's never to, argue one versus another. But I'm interested in your thought process of like why you feel it's not linear.
Yeah. I mean, there's beautiful theory written right around curriculum theory, like that can come from all over. And I think I was talking about that, like the learning you do in the classroom, but I think I'm also talking about like the learning you do just as like a human being navigating through life, right? I think we sometimes think that there's, one path to get to an outcome, or there might be a couple paths, but the outcome is like the thing, when it's really the journey is the thing, right? Mm-hmm. And the journey doesn't have to be step by step. Like sometimes you don't know what the best next thing is until you get 3 steps in, and then you realize you're not going in the right direction, or you missed a whole part of something that could amplify whatever it is you're doing. So, and I think that, learning's not linear. I think I joke with our mental health team that's here on staff too, that work with our students, that they're like, therapy is not linear, like problem solving is not linear, and I think strategy is not always linear either. Like, absolutely, there are those goals that are out there, but it's sometimes it's that winding back or that spiraling of things that really gets you the richest place that you can be. So we always tell kids, like, it's not a race. It's not a race to the finish line. Like, do 12 drafts if that's what you want to do. Like, there's a lot of different ways to get where you need to go. So make sure you pick up as much as you can along the way. So I think that's really what that piece of advice was about.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting. And I think about the fact that we have these different pressures, especially lots of times grouped in with age and with school. So whether it's from middle school to what high school you're going to, whether it's what high school to, what college you're going to, if you choose to go to college, whether it's after college, it's what career do you choose, and like what's next. And so this idea that we're on this linear path, or that we always know our wants and our needs are not going to change, I feel like it can be pretty unrealistic at times. I mean, if you told me, Carol, like when I was in high school or middle school or any school, like, Adam, you're going to grow up to be a podcaster, I'd be like, what's that?
Right. What's podcast?
Why would I do that? Why would I ask people questions? Like, who cares? Like, honestly, I would be like, I don't even know. Why would I do that? But it's interesting how like different people that are in your lives affect you, right? Like whether it's, as you mentioned before, some of those role models, whether you have direct access to them or not, or whether it's through a book or other things, which is, one of the reasons why we advocate and we're so passionate about publishing, is that we know that it's unrealistic for everybody to seek out or to have access to their role models. Like you're busy. Somebody wants your time. I mean, there's only so many people you can help on a one-on-one basis. You got all those kiddos, you got parents, you got a lot of other things. So for us to be able to publish your work is truly an honor, because we know that based off of more people hearing your thoughts and your ideals, like you're going to be able to help more people. So that's why we do what we do. And this is why I come on and ask these questions. But to think that that's the benefit of hindsight, Carol, to think that I had that figured out at any point earlier in the life, I'm going to say, that would be, it's not linear, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that like what you said is right. Like a podcast or a book or something you can read or touch, or, it's a great platform for just like your continued curiosity about, bettering yourself and continuing to learn and grow.
Yeah. So I wanna jump around here a bit. I know you mentioned some about Gals Denver, but I do want to go further because I know it's a very unique model, and I think you're doing a lot of great work. So maybe give us an overview of the program and school overall, please.
Yeah, of course. So Gals Denver is a 612 school in Denver, Colorado. We are the flagship school of the Gals Network. We have a sister school out there and some Gals inspired schools, even, which is a cool thing. We were built on a gender equity platform that also focuses on what we call feminist justice. And we are a model that focuses on sort of 3 really specific things. One is academics. So being able to be a scholar, entering in wherever you are and being able to access your education education and really thrive in an academic setting, no matter what kind of learner you are. The second thing is we do movement-based pedagogy, right? So we say, if you have a body, you are an athlete. And so we really believe in that connectedness between physical wellness and cognitive intellectual wellness, social emotional wellness, relationship wellness. So we move every day. We say to learn, you got to move. So every day we do movement together. We infuse movement into our pedagogy, whether that's introducing content or reinforcing content. And it's a really cool thing to watch students be able to grasp curriculum and content through that idea of like physical muscle memory, right?
Yeah.
And then the last part of our model is what we call positive gender focus. So we really look at how students identify as human beings, and we try and amplify all the pieces of that and really build them up in their social emotional development, their leadership skills. We have core curricular class that every student takes that focuses on their own development, problem solving, leadership, voice, advocacy. We have the way our community is structured is that we have community wellness squads that come together and really uplift each other and understand and learn about competition with each other. We have really try and put out both rigor and joy in everything that we do, right? And then we also really believe that there should be joy. So that's one of our bells.
I'm in. I think we need to have, I know our production assistant Jai is watching this. Hey, Jai, maybe we need to have some bells around here too. I feel like Carol's having all the fun over there with
That's right. So we do like 20-second dance moves every once in a while during the day. So no, the last thing that I was talking about is kind of part of what I wrote in the chapter about the humanity, that adolescents bring their full selves into a public education space, whether we're ready for it or not. So part of our model is that we have mental health professionals and counselors that are on site that are different than a school psychologist, different than a school counselor. They're really licensed professional counselors or mental health therapists to really help kids be able to get through or over a barrier that's getting in the way of them being able to be their best selves or access their academics. Because when that is blocking them from their learning, they need that intervention in the moment. And so we really try and look at students as these like whole human beings, right? And that sounds cliche, right? The holistic, human being, but it's really, really true. And it's not just like viewing students like that. It's like setting up a system that can hold them really well and help them thrive in an education setting. So that's who we are and what we're all about.
Yeah, I don't think it's cliche at all, or it sounds cliche. So if you think about this idea of wholeness or a whole human being, or even introducing a concept of mental health in a holistic, positive manner at such a young age, when we think about like, and I'm not gonna, assume or stereotype for anybody else, but when I think about like, some of the school systems that I grew up in, they're great, very well-meaning people, but did they have the tools like some of them that you were mentioning? Did those systems necessarily condone it? Maybe they were. I feel Gals Denver's ahead of their time on a lot of this, and we know the school system as a whole. I don't even know if we can just say a system like that as a whole. The industry, I'll say, it's a big industry, right? Lots of different methodologies and things. But I feel like the idea of wholeness, I mean, and like adding that to the ingredients into the pot, if you will, it's a win. And I don't want to assume like that everybody kind of makes the connection on this. So what are some of the things or some of the outcomes? And I'm not obviously no student names, nothing like that, but what are some of the potential outcomes either that you've seen or that you plan for with the idea of when you add wholeness into the curriculum the way you're doing?
Yeah. I mean, so many stories of students and their growth and understanding, right? Like first, some students being able to say like, I've never had anybody understand who I am before. And
at what age? At what age is this? This is like
11 to 18, 19.
Wow.
So like, for a student to feel seen and heard and held. I think we also hear from students like, oh my God, I don't have to show off or be put off by anybody here. I can be my own self, my weird, crazy self. And everybody is their own self. And it's fine. Like we all like lift each other up because of who we are, not in spite of who we are. Right. So I hear that from students. I hear a lot of what we do as students is helping them find their voice, understanding who they are, what they value, what they believe in, how they can make an impact in the world. And so students who, like came to us and would hide under tables are then giving speeches, 3 years later, like just really beautiful. And also just like just like that genuine ability to express who you are and how you can make change in the world. Like there's a lot of things that we do to ask students to think about what they're seeing that they think that it can be done better. Sometimes it's our school in and of itself, and sometimes it's the immigration system or, something a lot bigger than that that's affecting them in some way. And so, the outcomes are really like to propel, really just to acknowledge students for everything that they are and that they bring, and find how to be a catalyst with those talents and like propel them into the world in the best way possible, right?
Well, Carol, I got to say that it's been a pleasure publishing your work. I'm excited to continue promoting the book, to continue promoting Gals Denver and all the work that you're doing there. Mission Matters is definitely a big fan of the work being done, but I just have to ask, so what's next? What's next for you? What's next for Gals Denver?
Yeah, well, that's a beautiful question. I think the pandemic, right? Like really did something to schools, right? We had to pivot. Became like magic makers in sort of reinventing who we are. And now that we're sort of back from that, there's this really beautiful feeling of we don't want to go back to what we were doing. Like we have this really great platform to move forward in a different way, like to really understand like what happened to students during that time and how we can use that as a positive and really propel into the future. I think when you said like the industry or the institution of public education, like that's a real thing. And there's some like real stumbling blocks just by that kind of rigid institution. And like, I hear people say all the time, like, who are the innovators in education? How can we innovate to make sure that we're helping to grow the best human beings we possibly can? And I think like right now we're at a really ripe time to be able to do that in the world. So what's next for Gals is to continue to really innovate and push forward into the world and continue to support families and students to be their best selves like we always have.
Wonderful. If somebody's watching this and they want to learn more about Gals Denver and to follow your journey, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, easiest way to find us on social media or on our website, galsdenver.org. We also are on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. So you can just search Girls Athletic Leadership Schools of Denver or Gals, Gals Denver, and you'll be able to find us. And I'd be happy to talk to anybody who would like to.
Well, and we'll definitely put that in the show notes so that our audience can just click on the links and go check out Gals Denver. Speaking of the audience, if this is your first time engaging with Mission Matters or watching or listening to an episode, we're all about bringing on business owners, entrepreneurs, executives, and experts and having them share their mission, the reason behind their mission, really why they're doing what they're doing, how they're doing it, and what we can all learn from that. So we all grow together. Like that's the point. If that's the type of content that sounds interesting or fun or exciting to you, hit that subscribe button because we have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Carol, again, thank you so much for participating in our recent release and for coming back on the show. It's been a pleasure working with you and I look forward to continuing to build.
Thanks so much, Adam. I've loved every minute. Thank you.